The idea behind the alleys, in fact, is that at one time you could not actually walk through these alleys. Our alleys were basically impassable. And we asked ourselves, what does we have in common as neighbors? What do we have in common? And so he's over here on Outer Drive, these people over here on Snowden. But what do they have in common with him? The alley. So we thought, let's work on something what we have in common. So we have our alleys in common. Initially we had 6 alleys, now we have 18 alleys. And so the idea is to make our alleys walkable, to make them safe, to make them enjoyable. And so that's why you see basically the green. We've taken on the phrase that we've created ourselves of making our alleyways greenways, and going from those greenways that we have to dream ways. What do we dream that we'd like to see these alleys look like?
Don't get them all worked up.
I've been to the work part. I've been dealing with parents for 30 years.
Well, so it's called I'm assuming they told you this is called the Neighborhood Association, right? And why is it called the Neighborhood Association? Ordinarily, it would be considered like a block club, but we're not a block. And so we tried to look at what do we call ourselves? And we found that we were more than just a block, we were like 2 blocks. But then a 3rd block wanted to be a part of the group. So we thought, what kind of a name do we give ourselves as a block club? Then we realized we weren't a block because we were 2 blocks. Then we were 3 blocks. And we said, well, what do we call this association? What do we call this neighborhood association we have? Ultimately, we realized we should call it the Neighborhood Association. Duh. So we started out with 26 houses. We're up to 286 now. The city asked us to expand and take on some additional blocks. So now we go from the Lodge Freeway to Outer Drive to Schaefer, Schaefer to 6 Mile and around. So it takes in that entire area. So we're not only residences, but we're also businesses. So, and it's a very mixed bag of individuals. Just like we have the residential contractor there, we have a commercial contractor over here. We also thought, what can we do to make it even pleasing to the eye other than just the floral and the fauna? So murals will be going here. Now, he actually, young man in the house up there, I don't think he's going to be coming out probably, who is an artist and does digital art. And he's actually digitizing a mural that will take up the entire length and breadth of that garage. There are 3 of our garages that we're initially going to be starting out in terms of murals. And they won't tell us what murals are going to be on this garage. They say it is a surprise.
I guess.
So,
my name is Jock Jones. I am a junior at University of Michigan, Dearborn. My major is Urban and Regional Studies. It's a concentration in environment, design, and space. And early this year, I applied to a job as a research assistant. And what I did was introduce them to VR technology. And from there, they really liked the potential of VR technology and used it to design these spaces.
What we're doing is we're trying to make it so that we can make the ideas of what we think should be here and what other people think should be here, like people who live here. So that's why we clean these alleyways, so we can get the dimensions, we can get like So, for example, if I was going on my computer, I have the dimensions of where you're standing and where I'm standing and the shed. I will put the shed there and put like, oh, I don't know, like maybe like a movie projector right there. Or someone wants to say that they want a nice mural right there. Easy enough for us to change because we're not trying to make this our place. We're trying to make it everyone else's place. So we're using these Oculus headsets to have people actually jump into that world. So, but basically the whole idea is to show people what this area could be instead of just a greenway, or maybe they want it to be just a greenway. Maybe the other alleyways, they want it to be an alley, like a butterfly alley or a bee alley, a playground, or something that will bring the community together. So.
Understood. Okay, so well, one of the things that I'm involved in is I have a couple of sayings. You know, everybody eats. We ate. We didn't eat everything, so now what? So the now what is what happens to the food that we don't eat. And so I'm an advocate and for food waste diversion for composting. So we don't just divert it, you know, we want to divert it from the landfill because that's where it goes. Most people don't know that that's what happens. It goes to the landfill, that turns in, when they put it in the ground like that, it's not processing, it turns into methane. Methane affects our environment. So all this lovely weather we've been getting is affected by all those emissions that we're doing. So instead of the materials going, hold tight one sec. Do you know where you're going?
Going right here, right?
No. You put one in each alley.
Okay.
Excuse me, one
That's
second.
all right.
There's one in each station.
Today, what's going on
So today what we did, we took all the vegetables and everything out of the gardens here, and what we made, I made pickled okra, and I also made what we call a soup, and this soup has all the vegetables in it. So it's like a collard green and a black eyed pea soup. It has fresh kale in it. It has carrots and potatoes, mushrooms and tomatoes, and celery. And then it also has the herbs that we have here, sage, fresh sage, and basil. And then we also have oregano inside and parsley that we have also in our gardens here. Yes.
So talk to me about getting it from the local gardens. Like, that's pretty dope.
Oh yeah. Because you know what? You get it, you go out that morning, you pull it, and you go ahead and pick it, and you go and clean everything, and it's fresh and beautiful and vibrant. So it allows you to be able to place the sage on top of your cornbread, and it tastes very fresh. You can smell everything, so the aroma is very pleasing. Yes. Our gardens, and as I said, these are the pickled okra here. We have the soup there, and there's no meat inside any of our dishes.
So where can we find you at?
Well, it is CrapeCityDetroit.com, and then my name is Tamu McKay, Tamu McKay, and here's Crepe City. I have a mobile creperie, so I do pop-ups and catering as well.
Okay.
So this is the neighborhood association, and we're like 240 houses. There's Chuck right now.
Okay.
And we started as a result of Cranes Detroit. So they had 2 presentations at our house, pre-pandemic, and so as a result of the expats, as they call them, came to our house. You know, they had people open their homes, and we dealt with some of the issues in our community. And so what came out of it was my husband started the neighborhood association. We have about 75 members, people in the neighborhood who joined. And so this is kind of our first major activity where we decided just to clean up our alleys. So you can see how nice the alleys look. They were overgrown and full of trash, and so We have 8 alleys that we have worked on. There are a couple that still have some work to go. Then we decided she would do composting with some of the neighbors. University of Michigan Dearborn is working with us, and they're doing water barrels, rain barrels with some of the neighbors. 4 of us planted gardens. This house, our house, this one, and the one over. So if you go around on the other side, there is fresh cooked soup, and most of the ingredients are from our gardens. I'm a retired educator, and so I, pre-pandemic, because of the reading law, we decided to have some literacy workshops for parents to show parents how to help children with their reading at Hubbard Branch. So Hubbard, as you know, all the libraries are closed. We have to work to get it reopened. But in the meantime, I came up with the idea that we would just do select books, some of my favorite books there, which have movies, that we would do workshops with the children where we go through, do book study, and then to see the movie at the as a culmination, and then of course have them write, do some writing, because a lot of writing is needed in high school. So this book right here is the book that I gave every parent that came to my workshop, and so it just has a lot of materials in here that parents could use. That book, Salt in His Shoes, we gave to every child that came. That's by Michael Jordan's mother. And so as an educator, I've used that book at many workshops. So a lot of this came out of also knowing what the test results for Michigan are, that out of the 50 states, Michigan is in the bottom 10. And so not only for the economically disadvantaged, but also for the economically advantaged, that we ranked 48th out of the 50 states. So as a retired educator, that's really my focus, is to make sure the children in our community are good readers and good writers.
It's just the concept of, we have all this open space and alleys throughout all of Detroit that we don't utilize. So we want to find ways to utilize it that'll benefit the community, bring it together, and we just want to use as much local resources as we can while doing it as well.
Yeah, the cool thing I think is that everything is from the community. So like the food is something that was grown at someone's house. I think a lot of like the rain barrel and like the benches and stuff were things that were found in the community and like reutilized. So it's really cool that it's everything within the community. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just, I think it's a good thing. We're just trying to bring people back together, especially after COVID. It seems like everyone kind of got isolated, and this seems like a really good way. Look how many people are here, just local.
It's amazing.
About pollinator species that you might see on some of the pollinator habitat that we installed along these alleys. So assorted species that will hopefully be frequenting these spaces.
So when you say species, you're talking literally these rocks.
I'm talking about the species represented on the flyers.
Got you.
Underneath the decorative rocks.
There we are. All right. There
the
we
landscaping element. Yeah, so here we're talking about how cleaning out the alleys can go hand in hand with creating habitat for local native species. So not only clearing out the alleys, but replacing some of the overgrown, maybe invasive vegetation with beautiful native species that also provide ecological services.
Nice. And then, are you with Wildlife Habitat?
I am with the Wildlife Habitat Council.
Can you tell me about the organization?
Yeah, so the Wildlife Habitat Council works primarily with a corporate audience to provide biodiversity uplift. So we help support biodiversity projects on corporate lands, as well as some of the...
About that. So
Rescue My Nature Now Inc.
So tell me about the business and how it relates to this alley reactivation.
So we rescue parcels in the city of Detroit, and one of our focuses is educating on sustainable practices using concepts that allows us to identify what's growing in those spaces before we mow it. So in efforts of rescuing alleys throughout the city of Detroit, what's happening here is the effort of the community engaging in the process of rescuing those plants by the process of identifying. So, and that's where Sanaya helps us out. And she identifies what's growing in those spaces and able to educate and translate what those plants may be a benefit to our ecosystem or even beneficial to medicinal practices.
For example, you know, with our alleys, a lot of people identify the things growing there as weeds, when in actuality, there's no such thing as weeds. So for example, with dandelions, most people spray them with Roundup, but you can actually eat them. They are medicinal. It's a great detoxifier. So, you know, that's just one example. Even chicory is another one, and plantain. They grow everywhere, so you'd be really surprised at what naturally grows in our alleys or even in our yards. And that's what we do, is identify what's naturally growing there and seeing if it's how beneficial it is, but also what people could do with it. And then once they identify what's there, now they can make a decision whether they want to keep it or remove it. And that's where we help them decide there.
Nice. So what is your involvement with this project and with these alleys up until this point?
Well, with this one, this is our first time partnering with U of M and the Neighborhood Association. So what we're doing is helping them identify what is growing in the alleys and using QR codes to scan the plant, and then that'll take them to our website where they can get more information on it. Well, that's working with one of the professors there. He's actually working with the alley activation, so he learned of what we were doing in our organization and where we're located, so he decided that it would be a good fit for us to also assist them and partner here. And then that's where we came up with the QR code idea.
Nice. I think that's where Gilda is.
So after touring our site, which is at John Iron State Fair on Derby, after touring our site, the professor says, hey, you know, what you got here is an outdoor classroom, opportunity to teach, and it's, again, no mold practices. So it's areas that don't require mowing, because it's actually a growing habitat that's contributing to pollinators, thus creating pollinator habitats, you know, which is, again, what this project will include as well, is a pollinator habitat for people to understand what and why we should be preserving some of these plants, but also help understand that they are helping insects like honeybees and monarch butterflies. So this is our program, Farm and Finance. Farm and Finance allows us to educate and highlight the compounding that's happening in nature and translate that to the ability for them to allow their money to compound. So this gives our young people opportunity and exposure to entrepreneurship, cultivation, their own product, and it's coming off of the land. And they've sold these seeds to the earth, and this is their harvest and their reward. They're allowed to sell this and keep some of the proceeds for themselves. And in most cases, this money is going in their investment account. So, you know, that's another thing that we need to introduce to urban environments, is what investments look like for children and how they may be able to access them becoming young adults and preparing for the real world, or should we say the bill world. So.
Farm and Finance, it is a youth program that we're running, and it's really to expose the children to compounding, how it naturally works in a garden and with finances. So with myself, I am licensed with the state, so I'm able to set up those type of accounts for the children and even their parents if they like as well. So it's very rewarding to be able to do that, especially in urban communities where we know that that's not naturally taught in schools or anything like that. So that was one of the main focuses, was to actually introduce that to urban environments and just exposing people to that, especially children, and helping them apply it. because that's where I've noticed it mainly, is that people get financial literacy education, but it really just stops there.
He said, ask not what the city of Detroit can do for us. What can we do for the city? And so we realize we are the city. We are the one. So we've got all the resources. We've got it all. In fact, the city comes to us for everything, including the money. This is the highest tax bracket in the city right here. In Northwest Detroit. Northwest Detroit takes in all of this area, takes in Palmer Woods, Rosedale, Sherwood Forest University, all of that. And all that is right around the corner. We have here now, this is an ensemble that's about to start performing before long.
6 o'clock.
At 6 o'clock, okay. So they'll be performing, and they're basically products of the Detroit public school system when it was a very good system. When it was a good system. And all the teachers lived in the city, and all the superintendents lived in the city. So, and all the coaches for athletics, they live in the city. And that's very important that our youth, our children get a chance to actually see us. They need to see us cutting grass. They need to see us going to the grocery store. They need to see us going to church. Boom. And they need to know that there are a lot of decent people in the city. And so we serve by example. We find that a lot of times people can't hear what you're saying for looking what you're doing. So, but look at what we're doing. So the guy who just passed by here, he's an IT specialist in terms of security programming. He lives 2 doors down. Over 2 blocks over is a division manager for the IRS. You walk in his house, one room is nothing but screens. He has your entire tax up there. So we have a wealth of individuals right here next door to us. One thing that they're finding is that when we're coming out, we start to talk to each other when we're working in the alleys, is that we didn't know each other. We didn't even know who we were, type of thing. So we have a thing that we do every other week in cleaning the alleys, and we call it clean up and conversation. While we're cleaning up, we're talking and conversing. And it is made for neighbors finding neighbors they didn't know. Just like these 2 ladies coming over here. You have Jackie here, and you have Robin here. Now, did you 2 know each other before? No. Duh.
We just spoke to each other. We don't
Duh.
know each
See
other.
that?
We just spoke to each other.
And that's the general idea. The fact that this is what makes a neighborhood. As opposed to saying this, no, this is the neighborhood. And this is what makes the neighborhood strong. We all know each other.